So this is a video about how to get that sort of coloured chrome effect. And Hot Wheels call it Spectraflame. Corgi used to call him Corgi Rockets, and I think Impy did some. It's all a bit before my time. There was never really anything around like this when I was a kid. It all seems to be sort of late 60s, early 70s, and then it was all over. So I didn't really even see one of these until quite recently. But once I saw one, I developed quite an obsession with them. I just think I just think it's a lovely effect. But they still, Hot Wheels do them now, but they tend to be these red line club things that I don't know, you've got to join some club and pay some membership, and even then I think they're pretty expensive. So they've just got it, they still do it, but they've just got it up the sleeve as this thing that they can use to charge a load of money for the cars with. So yeah, over the last couple of years, I've come up with various different methods of doing this. One way to do it is with an airbrush, and airbrushes have always proved to be quite complicated and frustrating and expensive to maintain, so not really in keeping with what I'm trying to do with this channel. But there seems to be a new crop of airbrushes that you can get cheaply that are very easy to use and self-contained. And I was a little bit dubious about whether they work, but in the end I bought one because I thought, well, what's worse that could happen? I have to send it back. So I did, and I ain't going to be sending it back. So this is the thing. It's an airbrush for doing nail. Well, I think the primary use of it, or the primary thing it was designed for, was for doing nail art. So it's a completely self-contained, all-in-one airbrush. You're going to hear me saying a lot of good things about this. A lot of good things, but it's not a paid promotion or anything like that. I mean, look how new my channel is. Who's going to be reaching out to me to give me free things to have on condition of giving them a good review? No, it's just I just ordered it from Amazon because I thought it was worth trying it out, because it just struck me as though it could give me what I need from an airbrush. Because don't forget, in this we're only looking at getting paints onto car bodies. We're not looking at doing fine details or like artwork with the kind of things that the more expensive airbrushes come in handy for. We're not looking at any of that. We're just looking at getting some way of getting paint that we've mixed or we've made onto a car body, and obviously you can't really do that with an aerosol. So this just does exactly that. It's a lot more hassle-free than airbrushes tend to be. I have had airbrushes in the past, and when I say had, I don't have them now. I must have had about 6, and it always ends in tears. I don't know if it's just me, but it always seems to end in tears with airbrushes. Seems to be you seem to spend half your time troubleshooting and trying to figure out why it's not working, why it's not spitting any paint out, why there's an air leak coming from there, or you've run out of propellant, or you don't worry about propellant because you can buy a compressor, and what are they, 180 quid? And they break down as well. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's not, I didn't get into this to spend half my life setting up equipment and trying to figure out what's going on with it. I just like to actually get on with doing some stuff, and this seems like for the first time somebody's actually made an airbrush that you can actually do that with, because it just works. So anyway, it's all, like I say, it's all a single contained unit. It's got a charging port there. I just used my phone charger for that. A little cable did come in the box, but I realised it was exactly the same as my phone charger, and that was already plugged in, so I just plugged it into that, and that seemed to charge it fine. I've done about 30 cars with it already, and I think I've only had to charge it twice. So it's pretty good in that respect. In terms of how it actually works, it's exactly the same as, well, it's very similar to all the other airbrushes that I've ever had. You just turn it on there. That's the noise it makes. It's not particularly loud or intrusive or anything. And then you've just got your little trigger at the top. So while it's on, it's constantly blowing air out all the time. I mean, there's nothing in the thing at the moment, but when you press that, it just lets it'd be rather silly not to give you a demonstration, really, of that part of it working. So this is some paint one of my own concoctions that I've made up. We'll get another one because that one's not opening. This is another one of my concoctions, so it's yeah, this one's opening just. So I don't know what it is that I've written on there, but it means something. It must have meant something to me at some point, but it's definitely not a standard Tamiya Clay colour. They don't do anything like that. It'll be one of the pinks that I've been making. So there's chances are there'll be a lot of actual transparent Tamiya Clay in there, and then there'll be some pink ballpoint pen ink that's gone in there, because they do, like, you know, fun ballpoint pens for kids where they come in all these wacky colours. They're great. You just buy those and you can just get the ink out of them and mix it with clear, and you can basically make your own Spectraflame type paint. It's fun. They're a fantastic way of getting a really good range of colours. So that's the part where the stuff goes and where it dispenses it from. So put that to one side for a sec. Be silly not to show it actually being filled up. So there you go, there's your paint. There are more precise methods you could use this. You could use a little pipette or something like that, but I tend to just get a bit in. There, it's in. Close the thing up. It's been thinned roughly 30 or 40% thinners, and I tend to use Tamiya thinners with Tamiya paint. If you're using car paint, then you can use cellulose thinners. I haven't really tried this with car paint yet, but I will. At the moment, we're using I'm using the Tamiya Clay paints and tinted with different inks and things like that, because I want to show the Spectraflame side of things, and the Tamiya Clay seem to be, well, to me, they're a good way of achieving that. So there you go. And you can see how it dispenses. It's very, very gentle, very soft, so it's definitely getting some colour on there. You can see it's gradually turning the back wall pink, so. And that's just what you want, because look, it's only 4 or 5 strokes and we've got quite a vivid shade of pink on the silver that was already there. I mean, that's actually quite a nice colour. That would actually look pretty good on a car body. So you can see how you're doing it's just gentle things like that, and you just gradually watch the thing get more and more. And that's just what you want, because it's very gentle, very soft. You can't really put too much paint on like that or get any runners. But it does slowly but surely change the colour of the thing. And why do you need any more than that? Why do you need it to be any faster or higher pressure than that? Just nice and gentle. Just gets the paint on, and if you put it on reasonably wet, you will get it to dry to a very, very glossy finish that you might not even want to put any lacquer or clay coat on top of that. You might just be happy with it as it is. The examples that I showed you at the start, I mean, that's the E-type Jag. This is several days later. I don't think that needs any clay coat, do you? That's exactly as it went on from that. So £16 and that's it. That's all your airbrush worries sorted. I think I've done 30 cars with this now, so at that point, I mean, it doesn't owe me anything. If it broke tomorrow, I'd just gladly buy another one and be quite happy with what I've had out of this one. Because if I think about any airbrushes that I've had in the past, we're probably looking at about, I don't know, £20–30 initial cost. I mean, I've never bought the really expensive ones, but £20–30 initial cost, and then you might be looking at 100 odd for the compressor, and the compressor will let you down at some point, you can be sure of it. Or you can keep buying the canisters of propellant. I think they're £13–14 each, and you might get 3 to 4, maybe 5 cars out of that, but that's if you don't get a leak in the air hose and you lose half of your propellant through that. It's like I say, it's always very much, by the time I get to the end of actually doing any kind of paint job with the airbrushes in the past, I've always thought, well, yeah, it looks nice, but I really have had to suffer to get to this point, because I've spent half my time trying to figure out what's going wrong, and that's not enjoyment. Whereas turning this on, pouring a bit of paint into this and turning it on and just off you go. That is enjoyment, and literally any colour you want. So there you go. So like I say, I mean, I'm not going to say who makes it or anything like that. This isn't a paid product thing or anything like that. But if you Google electric airbrush, you will find these. You will find loads of these that come up that look like this. I mean, and obviously, if you find one that comes up that looks identical, then you know it's probably this very one. And I can honestly say it's extremely useful. So the waffle bit's over, so we're now onto the raw, unadulterated thrill of paint going onto metal. Weird paint going onto metal. I mean, I say this in jest, but this thing is quite addictive. It used to be that getting them to this point, to the sort of mirror polish point, as I did in the last video, that was the easy bit, and the bit that I dreaded was having to put the colour on with the airbrush, because the airbrush was such a faff to set up, and it invariably wouldn't work straight away, and there'd be problems further down the line. But now it's the opposite way around. I can't get these things mirror polished fast enough, because you could just do these with this thing. You could just do these one after the other, and like I say, you've already seen what it looks like at the end, but just wait till you see how easy it is to go in. Look at it already. I think we've been painting it about a minute and it's almost done. And notice as well how close you can get with it, and just how little of the paint's actually been like atomized into the atmosphere, so you're not wasting loads of your paint. If I fill the little cup in of this airbrush, I can do this body, and at the end of it there's still half the paint left, because it's very efficient with it. It's efficient with the paint in the ways that even because airbrushes by nature are efficient. They're so much more, the atomization's so much less than it is on, say, an aerosol. That's why they're a lot better. If you've got to look at that. That's alright, that's got the advantage of being in direct sunlight, but that's what this thing looks like in direct sunlight. I suppose it was like a setting sun, so that might be what gave it that bit of an orange quality to it. But so now we go on to the beetle, and I do this as like a two-tone fade, sort of going from red to pink. And again, it's absolutely no problem for the airbrush. The pink half, I mean, the red is just standard Tamiya clear that's been thinned either 30 or 40%. I'm not that precise with my thinning, to be honest. You've just got to get it thin enough so that the airbrush will happily spray it. But the pink, that's one of my own concoctions. I've made that from, I think I used a little bit. It's mainly Tamiya clear, like as in Tamiya completely clear, transparent. There might be a little bit of red in there, but not much. And then the majority of what gives it the pink colour, I mean, we're not quite onto it yet. I think we're still doing the red at the moment on this one, but you'll see it in a sec. The majority of what gives it the pink colour is, like a child's, well, I suppose they're aimed at kids, like these sort of fun coloured ballpoint pens, and the ink out of those things is perfect for this. You can literally just, if you take the pen apart and just get the pipe where the ink is, and just obviously at the clean end, just blow it into a jar of Tamiya clear. I mean, I don't know what the ratios are, what the percentages are, but I would say if you blow the entire contents of one pen into a full jar of Tamiya clear, a full jar being, well, I'm just looking at one now. I think the 10 millilitres. So if you blow the contents of one pen into a 10mm Tamiya clear, that's about right. That's about the ratio you want, because you want it to, a little ink goes a long way in terms of when you're sort of tinting a clear liquid with it, but you obviously want the Tamiya stuff to be vastly outweighing the ink that's in there, because if you just tried to spray a car with raw ink, it wouldn't last, and it wouldn't dry to a good finish either, because you're completely using it for something that it's absolutely not designed for in any way, shape or form. So you only want the colour from the ink. You only want the tint from the ink. You don't really want much ink to, the proportion of ink to be very high in what you're spraying on there, because then the resulting paint will then have the nature of the Tamiya paint rather than having the nature of the ink, if that makes any sense. So that's as close to a ratio as I can really give you. I don't know how many millimetres of ink are in the sort of central tube thing of a ballpoint pen. I've no idea. I suspect it's less than I suspect it's like a millimetre at the most. It must be 10 to 1 that it's outnumbered by the Tamiya paint if you put it into a full thing of paint. I mean, you can also tint actual coloured transparent Tamiya paints as well. I guess it's just that'd probably just be a little bit of a waste. I mean, you'd probably make some quite strange colour combinations if you did that. You're better off just using the transparent one as the basis. But you can always put two different colours of ink in. Just put half the tube in from each of them, and you can create your own colour. There's an infinite amount of messing about and creating different combinations of colours you can do. But the good news is any one of those colours can just go straight in the cup of this thing and just be sprayed on nice and evenly and consistently, as you see here. So if this all sounds like a bit of a love letter to this airbrush, it sort of is. Like I say, it's not. I've said before, it's not a paid product placement or anything like that. Why would anybody be paying somebody or giving somebody free stuff when they've got such a new channel? But I am very, very impressed with it. It doesn't do anything that any airbrushes in the past weren't able to do, and the more expensive and fancier airbrushes will be able to use fancier techniques and do different things that this airbrush really isn't capable of doing. But if you just wanted to get nice colours onto car bodies and get a nice finish, this is definitely. And look at that again. We've got the advantage of sunlight here, but you're not gonna. And I'm just doing a blue one now as well, because blue's traditionally quite a tricky colour. So just to show you that it's no problem for this thing. It's not that it's doing anything that the old airbrushes couldn't do. It's just that it's doing it with so much less fuss and expense and messing about. And the airbrushes, as they've always been, have almost been like a bit of a barrier for people, really, because you'd have to lay out a fairly, well, I mean, it's all relative, isn't it, what you call a lot of money, but it's a slightly intimidating sum of money for a lot of people that you've got to pay to get kitted out with an airbrush. And this, it's just like £15-16 and you're done, you're in business. You don't really need anything else. You need your thinners, okay, but and the actual paints themselves, but there's no other equipment that you need. So as I say, I've done 30 cards with this already, all of them Spectraflame style. I haven't even explored what else this can do. I am going to start trying some different types of paint and that are made out of different things with this thing. I haven't even, the thing at the end where you can adjust the size of the nozzle, I haven't even messed about with that yet. I've just been using the default factory setting because it seems to be putting this type of paint on it exactly as I want it. When I start using other types of paint with it, I might find that that's the time to start adjusting that nozzle. And the only thing that I can't be sure about, of course, is whether or not the fact that I've painted real cars and I've used that many different, painted real cars for nearly 20 years and I've used that many different spray guns, and I may pick up the best method of the best technique of using a new spray gun quicker than some people who haven't had that experience might do. So there could be a little bit of bias in there. There could be some muscle memory that I've got that enables me to sort of get the hang of something a bit quicker. So I'm not saying that if you've got one of these, if you've not had that much experience paint spraying, I'm not saying that you won't need to practice. But clearly, if you do practice with it, you'll get like this with it, because it doesn't matter how much experience I've had in using other types of spray gun or whatever. If this thing wasn't any good and didn't work properly, I wouldn't be able to get any good results out of it. But that applies to anything. I would say this will be easier to pick up for a completely inexperienced spray painter. I would say this would be easier to pick up than spraying effectively using an aerosol will be. But that's just my gut feeling, of course. It might not, that I have no way of knowing if that's true or not. So while we have a look at these, I'll just sum it up. It costs about £16. Takes about an hour and a half to charge. You seem to be able to do maybe 10 spray jobs with it before it'll need charging again. I think I've only charged it twice in the time that I've had it. And to clean it out after you've done, just a little bit of thinners in the cup. Where you put the paint, you just put a little bit of raw thinners in there and just blast that through it, just spray that thinners through it, and that's it, it's clean, ready to use again. And you can start spraying straight away in the way I was doing, absolutely out of the box without making any adjustments. At some point I'll probably find it either necessary or beneficial to make some adjustments to the nozzle, so if and when I do, I'll do a video on that. Anyway, till the next one, thanks for watching.